support that. You support that person doing that to me. Let's keep it real. We are human beings. I'm going to, I'm gonna feel a hoe.
But we talking. I mean,
And I'm not going to be able to look at you as a friend.
But so Sanya, on public policy, for instance, even in my family, right? I have my mother supports a more conservative point of view, because she likes the Republicans in the US, and maybe I shouldn't out my mother, but and you have the other in the same household that don't agree with that, and we definitely have different opinions on that, but at the end, that's just a small part of who we are, and we put that aside. So you're saying that because someone supports someone on politics, that somehow that shows disloyalty to you. I'm kind of confused with.
I
I,
think for some people, yes, they
I
feel
think
like,
I still think there's too much weight put on politics,
yeah,
guys. And
yes, I know you were going to say that. But
because
generally speaking, Kenny,
you see,
generally speaking,
politics is just a manifestation of how people can voice themselves the most because it has a tangible effect on everybody. But if you look at the topic of what we're discussing, civility of discourse, okay?
mhm,
In the past, what used to happen is that less people had access, direct access to forms of communicating to the world.
Correct.
People did
That
not
that
have the ability to pick up a phone and just post on Facebook like, I don't like this person, or I don't like this, or the hell with this person. They didn't. You had a prescriptive form of information flow. At first, it started with the newspapers. Then, for a time, it has the TV. Then, radio came along. But the real disruption has been internet and social media. Because then what has happened is that people have to moderate themselves, and people cannot moderate themselves. They just cannot. Because when you give people the opportunity, I mean, you see it happening now in the United States, where even anonymity is being challenged, because whenever you have forums where people can be anonymous, they will say the most horrible things because there's no filter,
mhm.
and sometimes it can be someone who's sitting right next to you. So I think that's the main issue. I think
So,
what we miss in Dominica right now is we do not have forums for people to be able to see responsible discussions happening back and forth. So that people replicate the behavior that they find is dominant around them. And because now they've got the ability, Tanya, if you wanted to, you could have a WhatsApp group or a group of friends that you communicated to on a daily, who solely are people who you agree with on matters of anything.
mhm.
Mhm.
That that was way more difficult in the past when you had to engage more people in the real, and that was your social interaction. And I think in the past, what was different and is now, and what we need to think about is how do you get people talking to each other, not at each other. And this is a societal problem which you can see in the amount of litigation happening in Dominica. Because if you look at litigation in Dominica right now, there's so many people, families, etc., in court over matters that a simple mediation would resolve. But they just don't have, we have a communication problem in Dominica, and people just, they go nuts. They will shout at you, they'll scream at you. And that's why we're doing this. And I come in to the politics, or not even the politics, but the information side. Tanya, I both Sam and myself were looking at this story with Gregor Nassif and Secret Bay and Sean Douglas. And it's
Mhm.
instructive because we spoke about that in the real estate component about the CBI. But remember what we said, perception is reality. So there's still a strong perception that no matter what the information is out there, which most people don't read, that these developers are getting money from the government, the taxpayers' money, and utilizing that to then make more wealth for themselves. And so that's just one part. But in general, it has now, it's filtered over into the vaccines. It's filtered over into pretty much every facet of our life is
Yeah.
dominated by rumors and what people believe rather than what they factually know to be true. And that's very difficult to counter. And the only way you can solve that is to get people talking to each other.
Let me ask a quick question. I know, Tanya, you're the controller of the show, and I don't want to
Yeah,
interfere
we
with
have
that.
like one more minute. I know you wanted to open up the lines for an hour, but go
Right,
ahead.
correct. I wanted a quick question though. Sadly, we have had two homicides in the first 2 days of the year in Dominica. We must acknowledge that. Huh?
Yep.
So we've had severe loss, not just the people that have lost their lives and the families of those. I don't know them individually, but my heart grieves for you because I have young people too. I have adult children, and it must be very painful for mothers and fathers and uncles and relatives out there of the deceased, and even those the assailants. Even before that, we had Mr. Roll and an awful situation with a young man. Is this is there a nexus between what we're talking about, the lack of civility, and these things? I hopefully these two homicides so early is an anomaly, and we certainly don't go. We can quell this and certainly live in peace for the most part again. But is this a part of what the conversation that we're having? Is this where we're heading, or is this totally not related, guys? I don't know.
Hmm.
Kenya, you want to go at that?
I'm sure those incidences are definitely related to civility in discourse and stuff like that, but I don't know if we're heading in that direction. But like what Kenny said, it's a conversation, not just politics. As he just pointed out, people are in court for what I would say a petty stuff because they are unable to communicate that, hey, this is how I feel, this is how you feel. Let's come to some understanding where, we can probably both compromise and walk away. So I think it's a general conversation. I'm sure those incidences are, I'm sure it had some communication there that did not go very civil. Very sure about that. But I have a call coming in. Can I take it?
Yes, of
Yeah?
course.
Let's take that call. Oh, call, are you gone? Oh, you're live on the other side.
Tanya, I think, and Sam,
Hello? Just one second, Kenny.
God,
Call, are you there? No, I think we've lost the call. Yeah. Go ahead. Ooh,
Hello.
okay. One second. Can you please load on your radio?
All right.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
yeah,
Thank you.
All right. I've been listening to y'all from Jump Street, not just today. Your last three programs before that one,
Mm-hmm.
and I must say, y'all here to discuss the other side. And what I'm hearing is kind of hypocrisy tonight. But first of all, let me take it one by one. Tanya, to you, you are voice of reason. It's necessary that you be there because sometimes you put the guys in the place of the little man, the so-called uneducated men as they speak.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why all three of you all are there. So to sit on your program and say that some people don't read and they're not educated, I'm under the impression that your show, the name The Other Side, is there to bring forth the other side to the least educated. Okay? Now, the condition that the country is in, and not only the country, the world, where people just blur it out how they feel, I'm more leaning where Tanya is. Frustration of people. But gentlemen, Mr. Green and Raphael, I've heard you all talk down at the people, especially Mr. Raphael. When you spoke last week on your position of you being a passport seller and the week before, you really were kind of condescending.
Caller, you have 30
And
more
you say, well, I
seconds,
don't
sir,
have to talk
caller.
to stupid people, they don't understand. But hold up, let me
Yes, no
speak because
problem,
I've
but
been listening,
we
I've
have
been
other
calling,
calls
trying to
coming in,
get them.
okay?
Yeah, let me close.
Okay.
Mr. Raphael, one thing I got to say to you. When the last election was taking place, you took and you put Mr. Linton out as a passport seller. He intends to sell any amount of passport. You knew how many passport he was going to sell, how much he going to get. But then somebody asked you how many passports you sold and how much money you pulled. You all don't want to tell the people that, but you know how much a man who had no connection to the passport, unless he's in office, but you know how much passport he's selling. So what I'm saying is, You all got to live up to the name of your show. If you're gonna be the other side, be honest with the people, be upfront with the people because the people want to know. Don't be condescending. And you could be the Mr. McCain, Raphael. You could be the Mr. McCain I heard you speak about because the lady was miseducated and that's why she felt the way she felt about Obama. And then she was straightened up by Mr. McCain. So you could take the high road and teach the people. Don't talk down to the people.
Okay, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody want to respond, Sam?
Well, we have a tendency to be defensive, and I won't be defensive. So, my friend, I will take because it's not the way I intended to dish it out. But sometimes, how we intend to dish it out and how it is received is different. Is things that are different. In the particular instance, I'm not a passport seller, and again, we try to clarify that. So there again, is something that is hard for me to sit and to answer accordingly when there's a clarification needed. Then there was a question of how many applications basically did I produce as an agent or an agency, and as we indicated, even the program before that's proprietary. Yet that question kept coming up. And basically, what I told the person is, I said, I don't know better than but with all due respect, it's really nobody's business what the what I make as a lawyer, what I make in my hotel, what I make as a consultant, and it's in that same line that I answered that. I do take it that the person took offense to it, probably, and according to this call, the call took offense to it. It wasn't meant as it just meant that it is not something that is of a public interest. And
Mhm.
again, we're not there to. I'm not on this program to expose my personal business, but I'm here to talk about the issues such as we're talking about now. So I think sometimes, there's a gap in communication. I don't think we insult people, Kenny, by suggesting that they're uneducated. Again, words, are very specific, and we must be very specific in what we say. I don't recall you saying or suggesting that, Kenny, nor do I wish to suggest that. We do think that people need to do more research, and I will stand by that. This is what I
I think I
say.
think Sam, you've been clear about that, and I think the other thing that is also very clear, and I'd like to repeat, is that we have a very oral culture, and what is going on right now is people adopt their knowledge in whole from who repeats the most the information that they hear on a daily basis, and that's a dangerous tack to go along because it's affecting all of us globally, whether it's to talk about science, whether it's to talk about politics, whether it is to talk about business. When there's so much information, and again, I'll repeat again, there's more information than ever before out there, but less knowledge because people are not spending. And this is not a Dominican thing, it's a global phenomenon. And for Dominica, I note again that even for CBI, there's a considerable amount of information on the website, the cbiu.gov.dm. But what you're seeing here is that people have basically delegated that responsibility to other people to come and tell them what information is there. And I think it's their responsibility to also go and look at that information. And if you don't do that, then you are likely to adopt information from someone rather than knowing it for yourself. That's all we're saying. And for
Okay.
those people who cannot know it, or who don't know it because they don't have that access, we can provide some answers. But there's lots of different people that you can talk to, but form an impression of your own. That's
You know
always.
what, Kenny? I don't think people really care about that information on the CBI website. I
Mhm,
think people care about digits, and they
mhm.
just want to know where is the money going to that we get into our government fund? What is the percentage that you get when you, I'm quote unquote, sell a passport? I hate to say it, but I know you're corrected. But I'm just, I think that's what people care about. But right now, let's take a quick break at 6:38 p.m. in the evening. We need a quick break. We'll be right back, and I'm gonna give you all the line numbers to call and interact like you all want to. So keep it locked. Welcome back to the other side. Yes, 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 yes. Tonight's topic, we're talking about civility in discourse, civility in public discourse. Joining me,
So,
Sam Raphael and Kenneth Green.
Can I ask another, being that
We're just jumping in with a question. Okay, no problem.
an initial question, and it's a provocative question, and I don't mean to further add fuel to the fire, but since we're talking about this, and they say let's have an answer. Are we overly sensitive in Dominica, or are Dominicans is too easily offended when people say things where, if you walk and you forget to, or your mind is someplace else and you don't say hello, people take offense to that because you meant to be rude, or if you say something
That's not
and
just Dominica.
but then people would hold that and harbor that forever. Are we overly sensitive? And that's a part of you have one saying the offensive thing and the other one receiving it. Are we overly sensitive in what we receive? Is it that we can't take criticism?
We can't take destructive criticism. It's just what you said, Sam. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I totally agree. There are some individuals that are just super sensitive. They're not open minded to hearing somebody give constructive criticism. And some people are just stuck. They're like broken records. They're just stuck on the same thing, stuck on the same thing, even though you've given an explanation. I think it's like you said to Kenny, you know, when the majority, you keep hearing that probably that media, putting out that message. That's the same message you keep hearing. No matter who comes to you, you can't really hear their side. You can't see
yes,
their side. That's why it's so important,
yeah.
that media, especially now I'm speaking about media, puts out the facts.
Now, in the future on this, I mean, we expect to have some media practitioners joining us to kind of set the frame. Not on this show, but they will come. And I think the media has a big role to play because, as we said before, and all of us know this, when people are in the media, when people even are in social media and they're saying something about you, when they meet you, they can appear to be totally different people
Yes.
because their personas just change. Because now they're dealing with a living, breathing person in front of them who is not this ogre that they might have painted them out to be. So that's the first thing about it. But the other part which we have to try and find is, how do you find a medium that people can communicate to each other safely? In the new kind of culture, woke culture, they call it safe spaces. Where is the safe space for people to be able to communicate without someone bullragging, as we used to say, the whole concept and coming in with a kind of rough, this is what I think and this is what I think.
Yeah, we have a
Because we
sorry. Go
don't
ahead.
have that.
Right. We have a call coming in. It's been blinking for a while. Oh, I lost it. People, the lines 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, and 616-4257. Let's take that call. Caller, you're live. Hello.
So probably
Hello. You're live on the other side.
Yes, good evening, Tanya.
Good
So long
evening.
I trying to get you guys.
Sorry about that, sir.
And good Happy New Year to Sam and Kenny.
No
Happy New
happy
Year.
new year
But
to
Tanya,
me.
I
Happy New Year
really
to you.
think
No happy new year to me, sir. You won't be able to go forward if you don't tell me happy new year.
no, I say Happy New Year to you, Tanya.
Okay. Thank you. Same
and,
to
and
you.
and Kenny and Sam.
That's what
I'm
we're talking
telling
about.
you,
Steve. Thank you.
Happy New Year
to
back to
have
you.
Tanya, listen to this, right? To have positive discussion, you must be honest. And that is what I'm getting from especially Sam. And I'll give you an example. And some no hard feelings, but I like to talk the truth.
Hmm.
Listen to this, right? For example, the citizenship of Dominica belongs to Dominican. If you are there to give another perspective or another side, as you would say, of that program, and somebody asks, what percentage does agent, not Sam Raphael or Kenny Green, what percentage agent get on every citizenship he issue? That is not wanting to know some business. Nobody wants to know his business. That is the people's business. The people have
Let's
a
have a
right to
let,
know
let's
what
have a discussion.
percentage of.
All right,
Okay,
caller.
go ahead. I hear you now.
Okay, caller.
Let's
Thank you.
Oh, don't let them
Let's
up because we're
don't
gonna have
cut
a
him off,
conversation.
please. Leave
Don't
him
let
No,
them
we're
alone.
have
not
a
going to cut him off, but let's
don't
let's
don't cut him off.
no, we're
Yeah.
not going to cut him off. But I need to let the callers know not too many questions at once, because
No,
then you wouldn't be able to get all your
No, but he
answers.
asked a good.
caller,
He
caller,
asked a
can I
good.
can I respond to that
Yeah.
question?
Yes.
That is a legitimate question the man asked, and I would have no problem discussing it with him. That is not the question that was asked, though.
Really?
That is
I thought that was asked
No,
before, the
that's
percentage that
what,
an agent gets on every passport or
and that
citizenship that they
is
sell.
a legitimate question you can ask. But the question is, how many applications did I process, or how many did Kenny process? That's a very different question than what.
Okay. Okay.
So that latter question, how many applications or how many cases did I handle? I don't think that that's
That's
proprietary.
proprietary, yes.
Percentage, the gentleman say, my friend, what percentage does an agent get? That's a legitimate question. I will try to answer that for you, in that there is no fixed fee that an agent would charge that is standard across the board.
An
Okay.
agent would
An
charge.
agent is a service provider, and agents provide different levels of service. So someone that needs to process their citizenship application, they can go to someone that provides a very high level of service, where they may fly to wherever you live and they can do the application, they can courier it, they can do a lot of support for you, and that person would get would charge more. Or someone that is giving you basically the basic service, they would charge us. The agent set their price for the service they provide. You can ask, how much? I'm in the hotel business. How much does a hotel room cost? Well, Jungle Bay have a price for a room. Fort Young have a price for a room. This X place have a price. There's no standard price for these things. If you go to a lawyer and you want to find out how much is it cost to do a divorce, this lawyer may tell you 5,000. The other one may tell you 500. The other one may tell you
Okay,
50.
Sam, can you slow down for a second for the
Yeah.
regular girl on the block there?
That's essentially, sir, the answer that the best possible answer I can give to that
I
question. And
know.
your question is a legitimate question.
Yes, it is. I know this is off topic, Kenny. I know we want to go back to civility, but this is something I think that the public really wanted an answer on for a bit. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that Sam went into it. But I need to ask Sam, so is it that you're being paid? How do I break this down? Are you all getting a percentage on the money that goes into the government fund? No. Okay.
you
No.
you you get the fee for if it's 100,000 that goes into the direct options, then you get all the fees that the person pay. You give that to the client, and then you give the client your fee for processing, which is
Okay, so the investor pays you something.
separate because that's what you get paid for doing
Okay.
your work. That's how
Okay.
you
And
get
it's
paid.
not based on the total amount that they're giving or whatever. It's just something that you like a consultation then, and something that you
Right. So it's a
okay.
consultation fee that an agent would charge a client, and this is the agents vary on the fees, and so that's what's said. Also, people should know that you have very successful agents and you have very poor agents that are going out of business.
I heard so.
And the rationale is just like lawyers or just like anyone else, you've got people that are quite good at something or that are not, or people that are going to invest in doing the marketing. We have some very successful agents that spend more than half of their time chasing outside of Dominica, spending huge amounts of money promoting. Okay,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
they should be more successful than those of us that sit on our butts
Right.
and promote, and that's the reality of it. So these are just some of the basic things, and I'm happy to discuss anything like that. But when you ask me how many cases do I handle personally, and I tell you that is proprietary, don't be offended by it
So
because it's
Tanya, let me just back up something. Sorry to cut you, Sam, because I know
Yes.
people want to call in.
Yes, we have the
Okay,
calls coming. Go ahead, though.
all of the programs list exactly at intervals. They list how many citizenships. So Dominican, the last budget or two budgets ago, gave the figures for the last 3 years, where they said this is how many citizenships were approved
So,
under the real estate option, under the donation option, and under the housing option.
mm-hmm,
That is standard across all of the different jurisdictions, including the US and the British tier one investor.
mm-hmm.
Same way, you cannot go to any agent of any of these programs and ask them or find out, well, how many applications you've done. You can't get that in any market, not in Grenada, not in St. Lucia, not in the UK, in Cyprus, in Malta, none of them. So that is a standard thing. But it is, again, it comes back down to reading. A lot of people should go and have a look at the budget, have a look also at the
Audit
direct
report.
audit report,
Mm-hmm.
and get the data. How much money came in from the programs? How many citizenships were done by each option?
Kenny, I actually looked at that audit report. I don't know if it get cut off if I don't have all of it,
Mhm.
but I've been honest. I saw how much money came in, revenue wise. But then I tried to look at how was the money used then. I think that is what people are concerned about. How is the money
The
used?
budget, the budget
So the budget
shows.
will break that down better
The
for me.
budget will break that down by what sector, what
And so
ministries.
everything I see in the budget should add back up to that money I saw in the revenue.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
let's take it to the lines again. We have another call coming in. You're live on the other side. Hello, good evening.
What's up?
Yes, what's up?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can, sir.
Mr. Green, Mr. Sam.
How are
Mr.
you?
Things, is that you?
Long time.
No, Sam not calling there, Sam.
Happy New Year. Happy New
Green,
Year.
what's up? I'm not playing with Sam, so I call it Mr. Green instead.
Ah,
Um, Tanya and the other lady.
Who's the other lady now?
Who's the other lady now? She have an accent.
But we need
I
Tanya
got the
here.
Dominican accent anyway.
Okay.
All right, let me leave that alone.
Uh-huh.
All right, two things quickly. Having to do with Sean and Mr. Nassif. A slight contradiction in terms of error, or everybody want to be politically correct. The patronage and the taxes of the country, how far that can be apart.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything you sell of the country or you trade or exchange, it would have to do with the patronage. If it's not your private property, it's government owned, so it's almost like an inheritance. The other thing, their radio station, a particular radio station I would call, and they would cut me off from the time they hear me. The other side, to be just, to be fair, why not bring somebody on the other side to make it the other side rather than I have to be calling trying to give my views and somebody going to say I'm on the other side. I'm not on no side, oh. I'm not on no side, oh. So the other side should be a proper balance within the structure of the medium you're using to disseminate correct information. So the misinformation that is being spewed out there, you cannot blame those who are coming with the misinformation because there is not a level playing field where people come to disseminate or spread or share information correctly, which is in the interest of the people. How to say the freedom of information? I know we may not have that act in Dominica, but I mean to be just, to be fair, Sam and Kenny, can you all bring somebody, invite the leader of the opposition, invite Thompson Fountain, invite maybe somebody else that is a bit versed in the whole, if I may say, exchange of our passports for money or for projects, because or for investments, whatever it is. I don't want to be politically incorrect. So I am saying the other side would be that level playing field within the medium or the structure of that medium you're using to have a guest, and then that would be the other side, rather than like you want to hear what people say on Q95 and then you come with a program and you say your own and somebody call and they say their own. That is not the other side. That is just confusion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessing, thank you. And you want me to take a stab at it first, and then? Or...
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, the first point. The second point that Blessing raised is us having Kenny and I going on the program with you, Tanya, and calling it the other side. Well, Blessings, the reason we do that, and you would have to acknowledge that the views that are expressed on Q95, if it's not 100%, it's, a very high percentage of it is leaning on one side politically, and the arguments and everything that is said is basically said with that slant. And so what we decide to do is to come and have a conversation with the same audience and to bring information from the other side of what they hear all the time. So that is the rationale that we are using to discuss the other side. No, we're certainly open from time to time. Kenny and I, we've discussed this, where we're going to be bringing in people who have adversarial perspectives from ours, because we don't have anything per se hardcore to sell. So we are very happy to engage certain persons, and the audience will be very happy to know we're going to be engaging persons with diverse views, and also we're going to be broaching some very sensitive topics in the not too distant future that the audience, I think, would be quite keen to hear about and to discuss from another perspective. So yes, that's when we say the other side, Blessings, that's what it's about. But if someone were to decide, if the station, we're paying for airtime, yeah, Kenny and I, or if someone wanted to split that and decide that they want to have a debate program, I'm sure Kenny and I would be open to that. Or if the station were to move in that direction. Kenny, you can take it from there.
I repeat what we said from very early on. First of all, the other side represents the other side of the coin, the other side of the story. And the narrative, as Sam said, that you hear on Q95, and I hear others saying that, there's a narrative that's being said on the other radio stations. Well, we've taken it to the fore to say we're going to come and be able to bridge that gap, even when we don't need to. I mean, as I've said before, I don't know for Sam, but I'm an extremely private person. I don't like being in the media. I have never enjoyed it. I may be able to speak okay, but I don't like doing it. So in reality, this is out of my comfort zone in terms of attention. But I think if you look across the board, Tanya and Sam, and see the amount of people who do not want to be able to come on a platform like Q95 because they feel that they're going to be treated badly or they're going to be attacked. I mean, that's perception. If we take that perception as reality, then it is so. And that's why we are here. And we're not here to score brownie points. We're not here to up image points. It really does nothing for us personally. except for getting a lot of flack, you know. But the thing is, if we don't do it, who will? Who will? And it's needed because people are becoming radicalized in some cases with information that they don't even fact check themselves. And I'm glad that people are able to even start to question the whole vernacular of using the term passport seller, because you can't sell a passport. No matter how you cut it, you can't sell it because it doesn't belong to you or I. Look inside of your passport and you'll see the language. It verifies it. But it's important to understand what happens. And yes, it's important for people to know exactly what it is that is happening in their country from a fact-based point of view. But the truth is, Tanya, that the information is there. You can go, you can read, you can see exactly how much. The thing is, it's tedious. It's actually pretty tedious. You go and you read the budget document. Even the audit report is 120 pages, much less the budget, which is, you know, the actual budget figures, is a complicated, long document. So you do need discussion on it. And you don't have enough people speaking back and forth from an intellectual point of view and saying, you know what, this is what this is. I disagree that we should be using X amount of housing, but I can't say that it wasn't used.
We didn't answer Blessing's first part of the question, though, with respect to the issue of the day between the gentleman. I don't even like to call names, but it's a public discussion between Mr. Douglas and the objections that were raised by Mr. Nassif. And Mr. Nassif is correct. I think we talk about politically correct. Correct is correct. And I think Mr. Douglas did make, I saw him make a statement basically that he wasn't aware that he misspoke. And if he's misspoke, he's man enough to step up and to take responsibility and to correct that. And that's all you can ask for. And I think clearly when he talked about.
Sam, we're not hearing you.
Sam, your audio went.
Sam, check your audio. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, and these things can be clarified, So I think, again, this is just an illustration of maybe someone may misspeak, but quickly give them the opportunity to clarify. And when you have the opportunity to clarify something, don't make excuses and talk about what is politically correct. And if it's not correct, if it's not factual, it's not factual, and just correct it and move on.
Let's take another call. Yeah. Okay, lost that one. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, good night. How you all doing?
We're okay.
Good evening. Good evening.
Oh, okay. Just my understanding, two things. My understanding of maybe what Blessings is trying to say. The pendulum is on, like, for instance, they have the government radio station, you have Kyrie FM and other mediums that are sort of giving the side of the government, and then you only have Q95 giving the side of the opposition. I think that's the point I think he was trying to get across. To sort of balance it off, then you probably bring off somebody who has a diverse view, as you say. But my question to both Kenny and Sam,
mm-hmm.
what is the fee charged by successful people like Kenny and Sam? That's what I think some people, the public, would probably like to know. Kenny and Sam, we are perceived to be very successful.
See, I tell all you that,
agents.
I tell all you that.
Pardon me?
And I just told them that, that's all people concerned about, They just want to know digits. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
No, because Sam,
I answered the last question,
sort of
Kenny.
Explain, that there's a wide range because of, and he explained it, but I want to pin it down a little closer. He gave an example that successful people would charge a little more. So, being a successful agent,
mm-hmm.
we would like to have an idea of, what the successful agents charge.
Okay, but caller,
all right.
Thank you, caller. But from what Sam said, I'm not picking up for Sam. Me and Sam in buddies all the time. But from what Sam said, it sounds like this really depends on the investment. It really depends on the region. It depends on a lot of things because I mean the amount of money earned is gonna be invested is different. Am I right, Sam? So I'm
That's
thinking,
correct.
the
Have a
fee
lot
is
of
going
work
to be
to do on the
different.
file. Sometimes you have
Can
a
you
lot of work to do on the file, and you would charge X. Sometimes
Right.
the file is prepared and submitted to you, and you would charge Y. There is no
Well, tell us
standard.
something else, Sam. Tell us how
Mm.
you make the decisions then. Probably they need to know. I don't know. Tell us
can you
something to satisfy
can
the
you
people,
can
please.
you can you can we just rewind a little bit? The caller asked in a, a pretty straight up manner, and it's the answer is very boring because we're agents. Many of us are agents in multiple jurisdictions, not just in Dominica, and so it is basically the same answer everywhere. In each of these jurisdictions, there is a website that lists the official local agents and marketing agents. In Dominica, it's a bit different because we have local agents and marketing agents are all in one grouping in this case, though it's been started to be separate these days. So the average person, apart from someone who would basically go over to a market and speak to an agent for a client, the average direct client, for example, will go on the website and will look and see who are the agents and speculate and ask them, well, how much would you charge for your services for doing X, Y, and Z? Whenever an agent gets together with a client and finally has an agreement, they actually formally do an agreement. And in most situations, if not all, in my case, it's all, it's essentially a mutual NDA, a non-disclosure on both sides, to
Mhm.
not divulge any information about the client's application or our involvement in their application. So we are first governed by that. And so therefore, there's no average. If you call a US EB5 agent today and you tell them, so how much do you charge for your service? It doesn't work like that. They will not give you that information until they qualify that you're an actual real person wanting to do an application with them and are not speculating to be able to get costs from them, because they will not treat it like that. And it's the same if you're doing legal services or something. They'll want to see the person come in front of them and sit down and discuss it with them. And that's how it works in this business, so to speak. And the ones who are more successful are the agents who take a lot of risk and go out to those markets to be able to meet the agents and are able to do so over years. It doesn't take a little bit of time. So in many ways, you can lose a lot of money before you can even make a cent. But truth be told, to disappoint the caller, there is no answer that I can give you because there is no percentage. We don't make a percentage like 1% or 10%. We don't. So it's not like that, and it never will be. And the reason the industry is like that is not because of Dominica. All of the markets, you can call Grenada, you can call St. Lucia, call Antigua, call the UK, call the US. No one is going to tell you a supermarket price for a service that varies between many different things that they will give a client. That's just how it is.
Let's
You
take a
know?
quick break now, guys. 7:07.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Mhm.
And we're back here on the other side on Q95. I just saw Sam. Sam, you nearly swallow me, yeah? Boy, that was a big yawn. You nearly eat me.
Oh
I said,
Lord,
time to come up for the break. Time to come up.
that was not civil. That was not civil at all.
Old age, yes, that was not civil. Yes,
Yeah.
at
I
all. Not polite.
apologize to those persons who saw me do this on Facebook and disclose. Um, yeah, I've been traveling quite a bit. I am traveling now, and I've been literally on the road all day, and I'm getting ready to fly back to Dominica. So if you see me on it, I was trying to help my mom with some medical stuff literally all day. And actually, I just married off my daughter here in Florida. I'm in Orlando. So my oldest daughter that you remind me of so much, Tanya, because
Oh,
dearly. She's so sweet, but then she always gives me a hard time. So she reminds me of you. So she got married this weekend, so I came up to marry her and also to assist my mom. So that's that. I'm a little beat up. I'm
tired.
looking forward to jump on that direct flight back to Dominica. You know, you say thank God for the direct flight. Someone said I don't believe in God, but at least I thank God for the direct flight that we can get back to Dominica really quickly. So that's my little take, my little trivia.
You actually
That's my
remember
excuse
that,
for my
huh?
yacht.
Yeah, just coming back to the topic again. I mean, this is just it's a stab at it, and I know I've heard from a few people who have spoken about the concern that we're going down the road where people are literally shouting at each other, in the public domain and not setting a good example for people who actually want to get real information. And I think maybe what we need is some kind of series of debates, maybe, or just discussions between different viewpoints where people can see and hear people with divergent viewpoints speaking to each other without going nuts, so to speak. And that's important because there are people who watch, there are people who listen, and it does have an effect on them over time. It must have an effect.
So,
Totally
Kenny, I
agree.
think this speaks to what Blessing was suggesting, and it's something that you and I have discussed, but it's good that it's coming sort of from the audience. And from time to time, we are going to be, and we've talked about it, we are going to be involving, basically a panel of people who don't share the perspectives that Kenny and I share, that can really have open dialogue on certain things. And so this is coming. And also, I'd like to announce next Tuesday, we got a really hot topic. You don't want to miss next Tuesday. You don't want to miss next Tuesday on the other side.
And the guest, not just the topic,
Yeah,
the guest.
because we had a special guest. It's going to be hot. So next Tuesday, make sure you go do your groceries, you shower everything before 6 o'clock, because come 6 to 7:30, you don't want to have a pin drop. You want to listen to that radio because we have a very special guest that's going
I'm
to
so
be.
proud of
Um,
you. Look at you becoming that radio host.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's pretty.
I have a call coming in. Let's take that call. Oh, we lost it. Look at Sam becoming that radio host. You did so well there, promoting. Let's take this call. Caller, you live?
Hi, good
Hi,
evening,
good
Good
evening.
evening.
lady and gentlemen. I want to
uh,
revisit something I said earlier when talking about civility. And what I've noticed or I've realized in Dominica that we have a lack of tolerance for people's views, for people themselves, and it's not existing with the political divide, but it's always it's from the top.
Yep.
It's from the top to the man on the street. People don't tolerate each other anymore, and that is the lack that we cannot stand each other. As a society, we're supposed to tolerate one another. Listen. What we do, we listen to reply. We don't listen to understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
So,
a
Sam,
great
we have another
contribution.
one coming in too, I believe. Let's take that one. Caller, you live?
Tanya, please give me 2 seconds to say what I got to say because I feel you have cut
Well, I
me off.
watching the clock,
Anyway,
eh? I watching the clock. 2
so,
seconds.
Okay, listen to this, right? Uh, Kenny talk about the government doesn't give the investors anything. And I disagree with that because I think the citizenship of Dominica is from the people and they give it to the agents to go sell or promote, whatever. And the other question I have for you, Kenny, you talk about the audit. There is an option which is the housing option. I know you know about the housing option. Parliament has no oversight of that. Nobody knows how much is coming in. No auditor going to give you any information on the housing option. So I listening to you, Tanya, and please give us a little more time to ask question. Okay, Tanya, I love you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so the first question or the first comment that he made, what we said is that not that the government doesn't give the investors anything. That's not what we said. What we said was that relevant to the public matter between Sean Douglas and Gregor Nassif, which is a continuation of what we've expressed, that the government does not give the developers money. So the idea that people have that somehow the allocations of citizenships that are granted by the government or permitted by the government is something of raw cash is wrong. What they do is they give an allocation of citizenships, but the developer has to raise his own capital or have his own capital. In fact, even before he gets permission for the project, because the government will not give you permission if they think you're only going to be raising capital from raising the sale of citizenships. They will not allow it. So they will not give you permission for it. You have to have your own capital. So that's the first thing. The second part, what was the second question again? Remind me. He was basically talking
You see
about,
why I don't let people ask too many questions? We're too
yeah,
old for that.
yeah,
We
we
can't
get
remember
into
all
that.
them things.
I think he was referring to the agents, I think, and how
No, he's talking about the housing. The
or the
housing option.
housing.
Right,
Well,
right.
the housing option is reported along with the other options. I will pull out for your comfort, listener. Maybe not today, but the next time before we start, because I always clean up on what was asked before. I'll give you the last known figures for the amount of citizenships granted under the housing option. So that's that. And the auditor reports on the amount of capital raised as one figure between donation, real estate, etc. As one figure. They
But
don't
where
break
can
it
we
down.
go and find the information? We don't want to wait
In
on
the
you. We want to
budget,
go find it.
go and look in the budget. The last budget it would have had that number would have been the 2020 budget, I believe, when they reported for 3 years. It was in the budget speech. You can go on YouTube and look at it, but it's easier for you to go and get the budget document on the government website. And in there, the Prime Minister, in his speech, indicated the last 3 years, I believe he did 2019, 2018, 2017, of how many citizenships were granted under each option.
Okay.
So
Uh,
with that.
yeah, Tanya, as a developer, I will speak to the first question where the I think there's a misunderstanding there. The government doesn't hand the money, but what the government gives the developer is of tremendous value. I would like to clarify that. Okay, so you can't say the government doesn't give anything. The government
Correct.
gives you a privilege
Mhm.
that is a potential
Correct.
to have significant value, but you have to work it. But the question is, does the government hand you cash? And I think that's where there's some misunderstanding. So there is tremendous value in what the government does because, again, it gives you the ability now to raise the funds through the citizenship program, and that is worth a lot. So as a developer, I don't want anyone to think that I'm being ungrateful to Dominica, or I'm sure none of the developers are ungrateful to the government of Dominica to this whole CBI
Correct.
program. We're grateful because it's a potential to raise funds for a project that is something to benefit the individual, to benefit the employees, and to benefit the country, and that's why it's granted.
Okay. We have another call coming in there. Is it there still? Yes, it is. Let's take it. Caller, you're live on the other side. Hello. Okay, let's go to the other two calls we have coming in. You're live on the other side.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Now, can you, when you do your research about the housing option, I want you to find out for us exactly how much money has been raised under the housing option, and we want specifics on how this money has been spent and what's the balance in the account. Thank you.
I tell all of that, that is all
That's really homework.
people care about. I tell all of that. That is why I said on the last show, can we have somebody who in the finance, I don't know, I talking like if I just everybody else, who can come and help us with the digits. And you're right, Kenny, to read them thing it's tedious. It's tedious. And I don't see anything wrong with asking that the people with the knowledge, the well-read and the educated, come and give it to us now. Come and give it to us on the air. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with asking for that?
Tanya, there's nothing wrong with asking for that, and I'll let Kenny answer his question because you're being nice to me tonight, and you have Kenny under the, and I
No, I
like
don't
that.
have anybody under
That's good.
anything. But you all have to
Okay,
understand. I get it. Go read. Okay, go read. Go read. Go research. And I get that. But at the same
but
time, you rightfully
what
said
you're
it's tedious. It
Tanya,
is tedious.
as I stated last week, you will never hear me, and I don't think you'll hear Kenny arguing with people that are asking for more information. We
Right.
may not have information.
And
The
that's it.
public, people have a right to ask. But I will, I will say to people, it's not every question that you ask that can be answered in detail because some things are proprietary. There's a reason why every cabinet in every country
But
they
Sam, is
operate
that
secret.
information proprietary? The information
That
the
is,
caller just talked about.
as far as I'm concerned, there are certain things written in the development agreements with every developer that's proprietary, including with the Jungle Bay development. There are things the very document have a non-disclosure a clause at the end that I had to sign on to. So if I were to go to the public and if I were to give you that document, I would risk serious legal problems because and it's for good reason. The same way if the government were to go and disclose because they are another party to this commercial agreement, they would get into problems. So I'm sure the housing option have a lot of proprietary information. How much of it is the financial details and so on? Caller, I'm not suggesting one way or the other, merits or demerits from your question, but I'm seeing a lot of information, and we all have to acknowledge that certain things are not available to the general public because it's proprietary for various reasons, and we have to accept that. Every government has had such agreements in every country, everywhere.
We have a
I, I,
line going
I,
up. But
I, have
can you
to,
go ahead?
I have to agree, Sam, but I'll put it even more directly. In every cycle of the budget, there is an amount that is raised under every facet of income in the country, from income tax, from VAT, and also from CBI.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking me to break out, for example, how much of that is raised by Jungle Bay versus how much is raised under the housing option, I may not be able to give that because, as Sam said, that part of the information is proprietary. But there's an overall figure which has to pass both the audit check and the international partner check. So, for example, the IMF reported on the figures that they would have received from the government of Dominica, and they trusted those figures because they used them for the baseline report for Dominica. And those are the figures that need to be quoted to people because those figures then comprise what constitutes our debt to GDP ratio, which governs our the SDRs, the special drawing rights that we can get from people like the IMF themselves. In other words, how much we can borrow from them. So those are the things that we can produce and give to you. But the real manifestation of something like the housing program is what is out there. It is the value of the infrastructure that is out there. Just like the real manifestation of Jungle Bay is the manifestation of Jungle Bay as a resort and its functioning. The same for Kempinski, the same for Secret Bay, the same for Tranquility Beach. And just to clear up one thing, it's the same in all of the different islands. So in Grenada, it's the same. You have the same questions being asked, you have the same concerns that people have, and you have the same infrastructure that underpins the programs. I think what is most important is that people need to have demystified for them, how do you participate as a developer? How do you become a developer or an agent? And what is the long-term goal to diversify the economy into other areas? Because
Exactly.
just like in Dominica, all of the other islands, every single one of these CBI programs, the developments are all tourism based. And as I mentioned before, you can make a proposal to the government of Dominica for any sector that you wish to represent, but you have to come with your capital. You have to come with a
Mhm.
capital and a business plan and a plan in order that they will be able to support it and move forward with it.
I think that was a real good point, Kenny. The last one there. How is this going to benefit the economy and the people? And I think that trickling down into the pockets of the average man on the street. I think that is what people are concerned with. I don't think people are seeing how that is happening for them. And I've heard people, say no amount of bridge that bill and road that bill and hospital and health center, you know, makes them feel or satisfies them, you know, with the use of the funds. They don't feel like it has helped increase any salaries or done anything for the people. So
Okay, so
that's why I really would encourage that type of discourse, that
I
type
think
of civil discourse,
I think
on
is an
that type of
important
thing.
I think is an important point because some of the things are very difficult for government, for example, to discuss. Government
Mhm.
will not want to basically show the amount of reliance or importance of the CBI on things like recurrent salaries. But I can
Mhm.
tell you from the private sector point of view, um, if you look at any given month and when public sector public servants get paid, that's when the private sector starts to see an uptick in their revenue in terms of their sales, etc. It is incredibly important. And there's a symbiosis, a relationship, a codependency on the money that is being paid to public servants in particular and their spend and consumption in the economy. To say that that is not important when a large part of the money that gets paid to public servants comes from funds raised by CBI, that I mean that is the economy. So to say that we're not impacted, everyone is impacted by that. For the infrastructure, it's different because if you don't have housing, you're like from the program, you're like, well, is this functioning? But if you do have housing, and people say, oh well, you need to teach people how to fish, etc. Tanya, I'm sorry. There are people who, at their wage levels, whether it is from the 1980s, the 70s, or now, would never be able to get a mortgage for a house. And the economy doesn't cater for those people.
Mm.
It just doesn't, and it never will.
Let's take
And
one
and
more call now,
and,
Kenny.
and that's
That
why,
was hard, we Kenny.
huh?
That was hard. That was
Sorry.
hard. That was hard. That was the
But
hard truth.
it is true. Look, Barbados is scarcely a socialist country, but wants to introduce a UBI. The Scandinavian countries want to do the same. In England, the entire fight for the NHS, the National Health Service, is a battle for public welfare
So
because
why are we not focused on helping the people get to that point where they can afford a mortgage?
where they can afford a mortgage,
Yeah, where they can do
um,
those. Yeah, yeah.
well,
Why are we not getting to that point?
well, that depends on a complex relationship between the private sector investment and the public sector in Dominica. And that's a greater discussion that spans not just this country, but the entire Caribbean,
Hmm.
and how a reinvestment into the economy can help everyone. And it's very difficult because if the private sector are not doing it, then the public sector has to step in.
Tanya,
Okay.
Tanya, I'll try to answer your question quickly, and it's that it's happening. People are moving up the social ladder, but not everyone, as Kenny alluded to. And for those who you have some situations where, through no fault of their own or through some social circumstance, single mothers have several children and they have a difficult time having housing, and then the state kicks in and provides housing that these kids can have at least some basic shelter that they can go and get a decent education and so on and so forth. I think this is what we're talking about. But yes, there is, it is better, the best social program is a job or someone getting a business where they can earn a livelihood, and provisions are in place to support an enabling environment for that. But then there are some of those who fall between the cracks, and I think that's where the social programs of the housing and so on are extremely important.
Hmm. I was going to take a call, but already it's 7:29, so I don't think that
Take the
makes
call,
sense.
take the call, take the call, take the
We will go
call.
over time, or they put me in
No,
problems.
we
Let's
don't
take the call
have problems.
quickly. Call you live. You have 30 seconds.
Just quickly, I heard I think it's Mr. Green said that the developer is not getting a percentage. When the agent is the developer, how does that play out? And I'm just watching the pendulum swinging in a demarcation angle, not in a left to right. And that is what we need, Sam and Kenny. Get Dr. Fountain, I think Lennox in the accounts committee or whatever, get people that, if it's all your intention to educate, please let us hear the other side simultaneously. Thank you.
Okay, wait up, guys. We're going to have to answer that question next week. We're going to have to because we're running over
No, no
time.
problem, no problem.
All right.
Yeah.
So, people, thank you for joining us here on the other side. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Kenny. I think it was
Happy
an
New Year
informative
to my
discussion.
and to everyone in Dominica. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, I don't think we touched on the civility of
We
discourse.
didn't. We got railroaded and derailed,
No,
but
I
that's
tell
good
you.
because we took the calls and we got to hear what people were thinking, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, we still stuck on CBI. That's
Yeah.
what's going on right there.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us. And we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place, right here on Q95.
Thank you.